Hello, everyone. Hope you all are doing great. My name is Brinda. I'm the subject matter expert English from SuperGrads. And today in this session, I am here to discuss, well, as a teacher, I have helped several students realize their dream to get into some great colleges of their choice. And I've realized one thing that this process is not exactly a piece of cake because there are so many things that you need to take care of while you're preparing for any test, especially in entrance test where there is practically no syllabus. So anything under the sun is considered the syllabus. Um, One area where students find a lot of issues is the vocabulary, where which is very useful. Say you get a lot of questions, whether it is your IPM or your DU JAT or any other entrance that you're planning to take. Vocabulary is one key area that is asked directly or indirectly. So there could be questions directly based on vocabulary, or you are given an RC, a reading comprehension passage, where if you don't understand the meaning of certain words, you may not get the desired result. And the list that we have is so long that I wonder how can one go ahead and just memorize them or retain them becomes difficult. I understand that. I realize that. So in this session, I've got some strategies, some great strategies that will help you conquer. Well, see, there is no shortcut to learning vocabulary. I mean, you have to say go through the list. You have to understand the meaning of the words in order to get a good score. And I personally feel and I advise and recommend this to all my students that you don't need vocabulary and good understanding of vocabulary or grammar only to clear some entrance test. The entrance test is just the beginning to a new phase of life. You need good grammar, you need good vocabulary for that new phase of your life as well. So, might as well let's fall in love with the process. I mean, instead of looking at it as a Herculean task to be achieved, why don't we enjoy the process and simplify it as much as possible? So, there are some great strategies that I can share with you today in this session, which will, of course, ease the journey for you. And let's just start then, all right? Well, the session today is essentially based on vocabulary and how to use it in appropriately in a given sentence or how to understand a given word in a given sentence. So let's just say, well, I'd say there are several methods that we can use to understand vocabulary better. And one of them being the root method, which essentially means that there is a root to every given word. I mean, every given word, every word that we know today essentially comes from a root. And if you know the meaning of that root, you can understand any variant that comes from this root. For example, if I take the word happy, and if I say happy is a root word, and I affix un to its beginning, it becomes unhappy, which is a different variant of the word happy. Or if I add ness to it, I suffix ness to the end of this word, it becomes happiness, which is another variant of the word happy. So if happy is my root word, unhappy is another word that I've derived from the word happy, and happiness is a different word that I've derived from the word happy. So essentially, this is how the root method works. So if you know one root and you come across any other word which has that root in it, you would be able to understand the meaning of that word. So, for example, the first word that I have for you, the first root that I have for you here is specto, which is a Latin word and it simply means to look. Now, if the word is spectacle, which is a noun, it means a visually striking performance or display. So, how to use this in a sentence? The Olympic is the biggest sporting spectacle in the world, or the Great Firework was a fine spectacle. The next word that I have for you is inspect. Now, inspect simply means to look at something. Um, so the leader inspected the toolkit, or sometimes your rooms, if you're living in a dormitory, they're inspected by the wardens. Retrospect means review of the past course of action. So you kind of review your past actions. In retrospect, she wished she had thought of an alternative plan. Prospect is to look ahead. Now, this means the possibility of some future event or occurring. Just the prospect of, say, something going wrong frightens me. Or, since you've scored so well, your job prospect looks so bright. The next word that I have for you is introspect, which means examining your own feelings. Now, as a student, he was quite introspective. That means he used to off and on examine his own feelings. He used to sit quietly and think about what he has done or what he hasn't done. He used to introspect. Now, the next word that I have for you is the next method that I have for you is called a mnemonic technique, which simply means associating any word that you have with anything known to you. You could use anything to associate with this word to that will help you remember or retain this word. For example, the word is dolorous, which is an adjective. Now, dolorous is anything which means showing sorrow, the mnemonic, if you remember Dolores Umbridge from the Harry Potter series. This was one of their teachers who was always unhappy and she took offense to anything and everything that was said in front of her. So, for example, the Dolores film made me sad. The next word that I have for you is umbrage. Again, we could use the same word. Now, what we have done is we have associated dolorous umbrage to two different words, dolorous and umbrage. Now, because this will help me remember that Dolores, okay, Dolores Umbridge was a woman who was always, say, showing sorrow or took offense to anything that was said. So, Dolores, sorrow, Umbridge, taking offense. So Dolores Umbridge is my mnemonic for two different words, Dolores and Umbridge. Again, she took great umbrage at his remark. That's how you could use it in a sentence. All right. Well, now just knowing the word I wish was enough. In the exam, they want somebody who knows the usage of the word. So let's say I know 100 words, but I don't know how to use them in a sentence. That won't work for me because the kind of universities that you want to get into, they want people who are aware of things. They haven't crammed things, they know what they are doing. So let's understand if you're given a sentence and if you're given a set of words, how would you identify which is the right word? All right, let's just start. So the first exercise that I have for you here says select one entry for each blank from the corresponding column of choices. Fill in the blank in the way that best completes the text. Now, the first one is in Europe, football, otherwise known as soccer, is the most popular sport by several orders of magnitude, whereas in America, fandom is fairly evenly dash among a few different sports. Now, see, if you understand here to get your answer right, what you essentially need to understand is how to anticipate what you require in the blank. And you need to understand the tone of the sentence also. Now, see, in Europe, football, otherwise known as soccer, is the most popular sport by several orders of magnitude, whereas in the US, fandom, that is the state of being fan, the fans, is fairly evenly. How about dash among few different sports? How about distributed? See there is only one popular sport. So all the fans, they hail one sport, which is soccer. But in the US, there are several different sports. So the fandom, it's distributed, right? So we need, my anticipation says that I need a word that kind of directs me to the word distribution, division. So regarded, no. Inspired? No. Measured? Well, looks close, but no. Apportioned. Apportioned means allocated, divided, distributed. So, the most appropriate answer for this blank would be apportioned. Let's read this again. In Europe, football, otherwise known as soccer, is the most popular sport. So there's just one sport by several orders of magnitude. Whereas in the US, fandom is fairly evenly apportioned among a few different sports. The next one. The astrophysicist argues that our books and films about interstellar space travel are a form of Mars. Now, anticipate. What do you think? Mars what? Mars is an adjective, so I guess we need a noun here. And that only a miracle could allow a human being to voyage to even the closest star in another solar system. Now, see, the astrophysicists argue that our books about interstellar space and space travel. So, I mean, we commonly see these in our movies, especially Hollywood movies, that they go from one, say, planet to the other. They've even been to Mars several times, according to our movies and books. But the astrophysicist argues that all these things are forming a mass. What? What are they forming? And only a miracle. Now look at this word. So, according to this astrophysicist, whatever is happening is not positive because, according to him, only a miracle can allow this voyage, even to the closest star in another solar system. So, what do we need here? We need something that further completes the sense of the sentence that whatever we need is not very positive because he says only a miracle can let that happen, will allow that to happen. So, is it innovation? Is it delusion, which means a false belief? Is it dementia, which means a disease related to mind? Or hysteria, which is an overwhelmed or an extreme emotion? So if you're laughing, you're continuously laughing. If you're crying, you're continuously crying. That's hysteria. So the answer should be okay. I've got an answer from Yashasva, and he says innovation. Well, Yashas, innovation means creating something new, and it's a very positive word. But the question, look at the tone of the sentence. The astrophysicist says that they've shown that this is done, but only a miracle can allow that to happen. Now, innovation, which is a very positive word, doesn't really go with the tone of the sentence. So, delusion, which means a false belief. So, what they've shown to us, these movies and books, they say, oh, going to Mars, piece of cake. I'll sit in the rocket today, and 3 days from now, I'll be in Mars. I'll be probably having a picnic there. So, that's what they show. So, innovation doesn't really go, being a very positive word, doesn't go with the flow of the statement. So, it essentially has to be a delusion, which means a false belief. The books and the movies, they've created a false belief. Okay. Now, the next one. Um, on an aptitude test in 1986, an argument posited that the possibility of conducting banking transactions from home was likely as flying cars, an argument that today sounds what? Now, see, we are talking about uh, today, and we are talking about something that happened in the past. So, in the past, say in 1986, it was stated that banking from home would be as good as flying cars. So they kind of thought it was unlikely, not possible. And this sounds, well, today we do banking all the time from all the corners of the world. So, what do you think should come here? See, today, when we think about that thought, oh, they used to think that banking from home will be as, say, good or bad as flying cars or as unlikely as flying cars. How does it sound today? Does it sound prescient? Now, prescient is the state of knowing everything in advance. So, or presumptuous, a person who's presumptuous doesn't know limits. He'll just take the liberty and say whatever he has to say. Paradoxical, which is a contradictory statement, or preposterous, which means absurd. And Yashasva says yes, and I agree with Yashasva. It is preposterous, absurd. Now when we look at it, we say, oh, that's what they thought. It's absurd. The next one. Many Dash people feared for the life of Ronald Reagan. Well, just to let you know, he was the 40th US president. Feared for the life of Ronald Reagan because since 1840, every president elected in the year ending in zero had died in the office. Now, the kind of prediction they were making or the kind of fear they had developed was based on some assumption, on some belief. So let's see, was it knowledgeable people? Well, would knowledgeable people say that if the cat crosses your way, you're going to meet an accident? Were they mathematical because they were talking about years and zeros? Was it superstitious or was it adult? Confused. What do you think? No? Okay, yes, I agree because their belief was, I mean, whatever they feared was based on a belief that, okay, if it's a zero, oh, the president could die. So they were superstitious. Yes, Abhilash, that's absolutely right. The next one now. Well, every generation is accused of slacking. Slacking is not very active. Not very active is the meaning of slack by preceding ones. So if I'm talking about Generation X, the preceding ones, their father or the ones they were before them. So every generation is accused of slacking by the preceding ones before, in turn, calling their own progeny, calling their own descendants. So if I'm talking about X, the preceding ones, their parents, and the progeny, their descendants, their offsprings. Lackadaisical. Now, lackadaisical again is close to slack, that is not very active, kind of lazy, indolent. So, see, what does this sentence apply? So, this generation says, oh, you are slack. This generation says, oh, you are slack. What does this mean? Is it vistitude? Vistitude is the change of form for any reason. If there is a change of form for any reason, that's vistitude. Irony is when I say something, I don't mean it. That's ironical. Circle, say one thing leads to other, like a water cycle. One thing leads to other, then again back to the same thing. So life is like a cycle. Or is it serendipity? It's an occurrence that happens for something good. I mean, you were not looking for this benefit, but you got it. That's your serendipity. So Ansh says, is it C? Are we talking about the fifth statement? If yes, then I'll answer. Tell me, is it a vicissitude? Is it irony? Is it circle? Is it serendipity? What do you think it is? You could say number five, and then you could write the option for me to understand your answer better. Okay, Yashas says it's D. It's serendipity. Well, see, serendipity simply means an occurrence that happens, I mean, which results in something really good. For instance, there is Mr. X. He just goes somewhere and he finds a very pretty girl who falls in love with him. So that's his serendipity. He wasn't looking for her, he just found her. So is it this? I mean, does the sentence or the tone or the meaning anywhere imply to serendipity? For five, it should be C. Yes, I guess I agree with Anshya. C. Yashas, it has nothing to do with an occurrence that benefits you in the future course of action. Here, what they're saying is, see, this is the generation. Their preceding generation said, oh, you guys are lazy. Look at us, how far we used to go to study. We used to work so hard. We used to get the water from the wells. What are you doing? You're sitting in the comfort of your home and you're enjoying life. This is this generation. The parents say this to this generation. Now the progeny is the next generation. These people say, what are you doing? My dad didn't give me any pocket money. I used to earn my own pocket money. I used to coach students. What are you doing? You're getting all the comforts of life. So what's really happening? Is it a vicissitude? Is it a change in form? Well, I guess I don't see any change in this sentence. It's the same thing that's happening, which is repeating itself. So it's definitely not the change. It is definitely not the irony because irony means what I say, I don't mean it. So it's definitely not the irony. It is definitely not the serendipity. Then what am I left with? Circle? Now think about it. Don't you think it's ongoing? I guess I'd go with circle and what Ansh says. Okay. Now, the next one. See, this is how you try to get the answer. First of all, you need to know whether the sentence is positive or negative. So accordingly, you need to choose the answer. That's point number one. You need to anticipate what exactly is required in the blank. You just can't say eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Oh, this is my answer. And third, you need to prepare. If you are planning to take a DU JAT or an IPM level test, you need to prepare. Things won't, it won't be a serendipity for you. You'll have to work hard for this. Now, I understand this is not easy, but then there are ways and means to simplify things. Simple as that. Try and understand what's in front of you. Try and get the tone of the sentence. Try and get the meaning of the word and try and fit it. See how well it works. Well, moving on to the next one. Although retired. Now, mind it, the moment you see a word like although, though, well, for now, or however, for now, I'll stop at these three words. You should know that whatever will follow could be contrasting because these words show contrast, nothing else but contrast. Say, although it is raining, I decided to go outside. So, generally, if it is raining, I should have stayed home. But it's raining and still I decide to go outside. So, although would always turn the sentence around. It would talk about two contrasting thoughts. Okay. So, now let's look at the sentence. What is the meaning of the first option? Vistitude? Vistitude simply means change. Change in one form, from one form to the other for various reasons. That's vistitude. Now, back to the sentence. This says, although retired. Now, see, the moment I read although retired, I see an old man who's probably lying on a chair. The professor takes pain to remain. Now, this professor is retired, but he's taking pains for what? The latest developments in her field. What do you think? Akimbo? Akimbo is a position. Just picture this in your mind. There's a person who's standing with his own hips, hands on his hips. So it's a very comfortable position. You're relaxing, you're standing out in the field, and your hands are on your own hips, and you're just standing there. So that's akimbo. Now, abreast of means up to date. It simply means up to date. Obtuse to, well, insensitive. So if somebody is obtuse to something, he's insensitive to the suffering of the others, probably. Subservient. Subservient is somebody who's kind of, yes, boss kind of a person. Yes, sir, I'll do that, sir. So he obeys whatever has been told to him. So now, what do you think is the best option that would go with the tone and the meaning of the sentence? For the sixth one, akimbo, Ansh. Akimbo simply means position where a person is casually standing with his own hands on his hips, on the lower back of his body, right? Okay, Ansh says it's D. Subservient. See, subservient means the tendency to obey others. Do you think, see, you have to understand the tone of the sentence also. Now, the sentence said, although retired. Now, if this person is retired, he was supposed to stay home and relax and read newspapers and probably do some gardening. But what does this person do? This person takes pain to remain, and especially the last part of the sentence says latest updates in her field. So she's aware of what's happening in her field. So does it have anything to do with being subservient or being obtuse, insensitive to anything? Or it, yes, abreast of means up to date. Simply, if I'm abreast of things, I'm aware of what's happening in China and US and Myanmar. I know everything. I'm abreast of the latest developments. So the answer should be B. Understand the tone of the sentence and then try and see which word fits best. There are certain words you will be easily able to eliminate because they won't be a good fit in the sentence. Yes, I agree with Yashasva and Vilash. The next one now. After the US Civil War, carpetbaggers, so called because they carried suitcases made of inexpensive carpeting material, dashed the South. Now imagine the US Civil War has just got over, and the carpetbaggers, they're carrying suitcases of inexpensive carpeting material, dashed the South. So they went to South US hoping to turn a quick profit. Now, if I am planning to get some quick profit, why would I go somewhere? What should be the intent behind it? To boycott something? Well, what does boycott means? Withdrawing something. Say, I say no to authority. I boycott. So does it have anything to do with this sentence? I hope not. Blacklist? See, if I'm hoping to get profit, why would I blacklist anything? It has nothing to do with the sentence. I guess I can very safely eliminate these two words. Inundated. Now, inundated simply means overwhelm, flood a place. Say, um, the place was inundated with, say, rat pickles. It was flooded with rat pickles. Or vanquish. Vanquish simply means conquer something. So, did they want to conquer South and make profit? Did they want to flood South, be there in large number, and make a lot of profit? Well, of course, I've told you that C and D are a complete misfit. So, which you think out of these two is the right answer, and why? Okay, I've got two answers, and both point at B, which is inundated, and I applaud you because that's absolutely right. See, vanquished is such a negative word that won't fit. See, you don't want to conquer somebody to make a profit. You want to just be there to make a profit. Now, okay, there's another one. All right, thank you. The next one. December's earthquake was but a. Now, see, but is another word that kind of turns the sentence around. So you have to be careful when you come across the contrasting words because they would point at a different direction. Now, let's see. Yes, 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 I agree with your answer. Um, the next one. See, this one says December's earthquake was but a dash to a terrible year for a small island nation recently wrecked. This should be E. Wrecked by a civil strife and devastating tropical storm. Well, strife is, you should know, strife simply means a conflict. So, what the sentence is pointing at that December's earthquake. So, I mean, prior to the earthquake, there is a small island which already was having a terrible year because they were wrecked by a civil strife. Civil is within the city, within the country. Strife, a struggle, a conflict. So they had a civil war and they had devastating tropical storms. So the island had already faced these things, and then in December, that is at the end of the year, there was another earthquake. That's what the sentence says. Now let's look at the answer choices. See, a prologue. Now, you know what a prologue is? Prologue simply means introduction generally to some literary work. For example, let's say a novel. I mean, let's say you start reading a novel. Do you see that first page which says, "Oh, dedicated to this, and because of whom I was able to write." So, and generally, it gives you a short beginning of what you're about to read. That's a prologue. So, it's a beginning to or an introduction to some literary work. Catharsis. Okay, you say A. See, Yashasva, first of all, let's look at the other answer choices. And even if you want to say a prologue, look at the construction of the sentence. The earthquake happened in December, that is in the last month. It's definitely not the introduction. So before that, they had a civil strife, that is a civil conflict, and devastating tropical storms. And then the earthquake hit them. So it's definitely not an introduction. I'd say the conclusion or the end, yes, I'll agree, but not to the introduction. Even if I, for a minute, I consider your answer, but then that would go wrong. Look at the tone of the sentence. What is it pointing at? It's pointing towards why did they write December's earthquake? They could have written an earthquake. So no, Abhilash, I don't agree because of the various things that I've just told you. Now let's look at the other answer choices and then you decide what your answer is. Okay. Catharsis is the process of, say, mm, um, I mean, getting relief from, say, some deep sorrow. So somebody has been in a lot of pain and now the person is recovering. That process of recovering from the deep sorrow, that deep pain is catharsis. Then you have coda. Coda is a very good word. It's a noun which simply means the final piece, the conclusive piece of something. Let me give you an example here. Okay. Fine, Yashas, I get it. But understand the meaning of coda first. I'm sure you all have seen the Harry Potter series or the Dhoom series. I mean, let's say there were three parts to the movie Dhoom, part one, part two, and part three. Now, the part three was the final part where one of the protagonists died. And then that was the end of the sequel. Now, if you talk about the Harry Potter series, so there was part one, two, three, four, and then there was this final part where I guess I've not seen it. I don't know. Maybe I heard that Harry Potter dies in that one. So that was the coda to the Harry Potter series, the final conclusive end to something, a final conclusive piece of something. And then homily simply means a sermon, a lecture. Say to educate you, not to say tell you about God, but to tell you. That's what a homily is. Now look at the words. Do you think the earthquake was a process of getting relief from something? No, definitely not. Was it a sermon? Was it a lecture? No, it wasn't. So a prologue is an introduction. Coda is the end of something, a final, say, strike of something. Now, what do you think is the answer? Is it a prologue or is it a coda? Look at the tone of the sentence, anticipate, and choose your answer. Eliminate the wrong choices. Well, I'd go with coda for the various reasons that I've already shared with you. Now, the next one. This one is good. This says Jimmy Stewart, the actor, spoke with spoke with what? Spoke with awkwardness, spoke with overwhelming passion, spoke with appealing shyness. That dash audiences. Now we don't know. Through hesitancy and understatement. Now see, this is the clue that you need to get your answer. So he was hesitant and it was an understatement. He was at least he was at least as captivating as his flamboyant peers. So he was able to captivate the attention of the audience, just like his peers, the others who had spoken before him. So, what do you think? He was hesitant and still he was able to captivate the attention of the audience. What do you think should go in blank one and blank two? Was it an awkward lisp? Now, lisp is a fault in speech where you're not able to pronounce certain words properly because the tongue is not able to sound those words well. So you kind of speak, but you don't speak with clarity. That's lisping. Then there is overwhelming passion. Now, overwhelm simply means an extreme, exaggerated emotion, either very happy, and then passion says very happy on the positive side, and appealing shyness. Now, if he was hesitant, was he lisping? Did he have an overwhelming passion, or was he shy? What do you think should be the answer? Well, I'd say it was appealing shyness because he was hesitant. And then still he was able to captivate his audience. So it was definitely not repulsion. And he definitely not amused them. He enthralled them. He captivated them. He got their attention. Okay. So the next one now. Now, here, this one, although on the same lines, is slightly different variant of the same question. Okay, I've got one answer for ninth, which is C. Yashas, I agree to the first one, but not with the second one. C. Um, if you are, say, you can't amuse your audience when you're captivating them. You enthrall them, then you get their attention. All right. So I guess it should be this and this. The next question now. This says that in the following questions, out of the given alternatives, choose the best which expresses the meaning of the idiom in italics. So it's clear that the ideas of both reformers ran in the same groove. So, in the same groove, does it mean promoted each other? Does it mean advanced in harmony? It ran in the same groove, lashed with each other. So, they were kind of lashing each other, they were against each other, or they moved in different directions. What do you think should in the same groove mean in this context? In the same groove means to maintain relations in good spirit. Okay, you say lashed with each other. See, in the same group means you are maintaining good relationship with someone. Then you're in the same group. Say groove is kind of the literal meaning of groove is say those circles that you see in the long tubes and something. So they are in sync with one another. Well, I'd say Abhilash, it's advanced in harmony. They did not promote each other. They moved in the same direction. That is the reason why they maintained good relationships with each other. All right. Now, the next one. He stood his ground despite the pressure. Despite is another word that kind of tells you that there is some contrast. So there was a lot of pressure. Still, he stood his ground. So did he remain firm? Did he? Yes, that's right. So did he remain firm? Was he obstinate? Was he ziddy? Was he prejudiced? That means he had some mental block. So this is this. Felt shaky. So what do you think? There was pressure, but still he was. Yes, absolutely right. He remained firm. He stood his ground. So he remained firm despite the pressure. With regard to licensing policy, it is advisable for every state to cut corners. Now, cut corners simply means to do something the easiest, fastest, and the cheapest way. So, if at all you're doing anything to say save money, you're cutting corners. If you're trying to do it the easy way, you're cutting corners. You're avoiding all the difficult work. So that's cutting corner. Now, what do you think is the answer to the 12th one? Is it become lenient? That is not strict. Exercise strict control? Is it amend the existing rules or is it simplify the procedure? It is the easiest, fastest, and the cheapest way of doing a thing. That's cutting corner. Yes, absolutely right. It would be simplify the procedure. We need to understand the meaning of the options. The next one, there was opposition to the new policy by, yes, Atar, that's absolutely right. Thank you for joining. There was opposition to the new policy by the rank and file of the government. Now, rank and file has only one meaning, which means an ordinary officer. Nobody now, this person is not a ranked officer. He's an ordinary soldier. That's what rank and file means. So, is it the majority? Is it the ordinary member? Is it the cabinet member? Or is it the official machinery? What is the right answer? Okay, I've got the answer already. Abhilash, see, rank and file means somebody who's an ordinary soldier. He now official machinery could mean anybody from the top to the bottom, the entire thing that's going on. Say the hierarchy. Official machinery would include everything, right from the top management to the lowest level. That is, say, the infantry probably. So it should not be D. Well, I agree with Yashasvi. It means the ordinary members. See, Sometimes things are done by ordinary members. In fact, a lot of things are done by ordinary members. The rank and file said, no, this is wrong. That means the ordinary members of the, say, company said, no, this is wrong. We won't accept it. Okay. Yes, that's absolutely right. So the next one now. Again, dowry is a burning question of the day. Well, this one is pretty simple. Is it a relevant problem? Is it a dying issue? Is it a widely debated issue? Or is it an irrelevant problem? What do you think? The burning question of the day means in this context. Is it a relevant problem, an irrelevant problem, a dying issue, or a widely debated issue? I go with Atharva and I say it's a widely debated issue. See, a burning question would mean something that everybody is talking about. Of course, everybody is talking about it because it's relevant. But burning simply means that everybody is involved in it. Everybody has something to say about it. So, more than relevant problem, it's a widely debated issue. Yes. Now, the next one, the sailor found himself. Now, this is a really good one. The sailor found himself between the devil and the deep sea. Now, we're talking about a sailor say, between the devil and the deep sea. Now, if you look at it and then try and look at the options, let's see what you do. Lost in the deep sea, facing two equally bad alternatives, facing two challenges, or confronting two opportunities. Now, I'd say okay, I've got the answer already. Yes, Abhilash, absolutely right. See, devil and the deep sea. It's like either devil cannot be a good option and deep sea can be an equally bad option. So both the options that he is facing are bad, very bad. I mean, say it could be life-threatening for him. So it's definitely has nothing to do with being lost in the sea. They've used the word sailor only to confuse you. Now he's not facing two challenges, he's facing two bad options. So it's definitely not B, definitely not D, and A or A. So we are left with C, which means facing two equally bad alternatives. Both are bad. Yes, so it has to be C. The next one now. All right, this is another very interesting question, and you get to see such questions very frequently in a lot of entrance tests. So this one says you need to identify two words which are opposite in meaning, right? So the options are given. I mean, of course, the words are given. They have been assigned an alphabet, and there are answer choices. There are four answer choices. So you need to find the two words which are opposite in meaning. Okay. So the first one says biting. The next word is generous, acerbic, and genial. Let's understand the meaning of these first. Now, biting is a verb where you bite a fruit. Say the dog is biting the bone or the flesh or whatever. And the other one is freezing. So it's biting cold. It's freezing cold. So this one is I mean, of course, a verb and an adjective as well, which means freezing. Generous, I hope you understand. Generous is somebody who's kind, who's ready to give, especially money. Oh, I've already got the answer. Good, Abhilash. Let's just see how good your answer is. Acerbic comes from the root word acer, acer, which means, say, you must remember the word acid that you read in the junior classes. Acids are sharp. They are not very positive things. So acerbic is acidic. It's stingy. It is unpleasant. So again, an adjective, but pretty unpleasant. Okay. Genial is somebody who's friendly and who's cheerful. Now let's see. I've got an answer from Abhilash. He says D, which is B and C, generous and acerbic. Well, Abhilash, let's reconsider the answer choice. C, biting, that is freezing. I don't think goes with any of them. So any option that says A should be eliminated because Biting doesn't go with any other, I mean, options. Generous means kind. Acerbic is unpleasant. A person who is acerbic is an unpleasant person. Nobody wants to befriend this person. Genial, on the other hand, is a person who's kind, who's gentle, who's friendly, who's cheerful. And I guess everybody wants to be with this person. So don't you think more appropriate would be C and D because they are actually the opposites of each other, opposite qualities in a person? What do you say? Well, I'd go with an option that says C and D, which is acerbic, and the opposite would be genial. All right. Now, the next one. This is unanimous, which means anything which is done mutually. So, you and your friend unanimously decide to play cricket. Win some. Win some is somebody who can win others. Say, and why would somebody win others? Because he's gentle, he's kind, he's cheerful, he's a good person. And then, yes, I agree, Abhilash. Then, morose is somebody who's sad, who's gloomy, and malicious. Malicious comes from a root word mal, which means bad. So, malicious is anybody who has intention to do bad to others. So, is it unanimous? That is anything that is mutually done. Is it winsome, friendly, cheerful, happy, or morose, sad, gloomy, upset, or malicious? The intention to do bad to others, intention to harm others. What do you think? Okay, he says B and D. Well, Yashas, I'd say winsome is somebody who's happy and cheerful. Okay, and malicious is somebody who's thinking ill, somebody who wants to do wrong to others. And morose is somebody who's sad. So why don't, I mean, according to me, winsome being cheerful and morose being sad. Don't you think they complement each other more than winsome and malicious? यस दैट्स राइट अहमद अगर आपको रूट्स क्लियर हैं रूट्स से क्या बेनिफिट मिलेगा आपको अगर आपको मैल पता है दैट मीन्स बैड तो मैल से रिलेटेड माल न्यूट्रिशन पढ़ा होगा आपने बचपन में देन मलीस होता है मलाशियस होता है they all point in one direction whatever it is bad it is not good but let's look at the demand of this question we need two words which are opposite to one another which are opposite to one another. So winsome is somebody who's cheerful, morose, somebody who's sad. So I'd say it's B and C. That is option A. Okay. Now, A, B, confused. Abhilash, I hope this is clear to you now. It would be essentially A because winsome and morose, they are opposite qualities. All right. So the next one now. So this one is again a continuation of the same question. This one says dignity, discord, strife, agreement. Now, dignity is the self-worth, say the self-importance that I give to myself. Discord is disagreement, and strife is a conflict, and agreement is agreement when you say when you say a lot of people say yes to the same thing. They are in agreement. So I'd say it would be discord and agreement. That is B and D. Which option says B and D? That's C. Looking at the next one now. Criticism, abhorrence. See, criticism is being critical, disapproving something. Okay, I've got another answer. Yashasvi says it's C. Yes, that's right. Nikhil says D. Nikhil, you need to reconsider your answer. Discord simply means disagreement. So the opposite would be agreement. Now, the next one, the 19th one, criticism is being critical, disapproving something. Abhorrence simply means hatred. So somebody is full of abhorrence, he's full of hatred for others. Dissonance is harmony, especially say when things are in sync, when they are in tune. So you'll say that's when you say dissonance. Affinity is likeness, it's liking for something. So what do you think should be the answer to the 19th one? Will it be criticism? And what would you pair it with? Okay, now this one should be A and B. Would it be criticism and abhorrence? Would it be abhorrence and dissonance? Would it be criticism and dissonance? Or would it be abhorrence and affinity? Well, I'd say it would be abhorrence, which is hatred, and affinity, which means liking something. All right. So it has to be D. The next one now, benevolent. Benevolent comes from the root word bene, which means good. Malevolent, again, the root word mal, which means bad. So, and then there's generous and there is unilateral. Unilateral is the same side of something. So, affecting one person, one country, or say one group. So, is it benevolent, which means a person who's good? Malevolent, a person who is bad? A generous, a person who loves to give. He's ready to give, especially money. He's kind. So, what would that be? You need the opposites here. Well, I'd say that would be benevolent and malevolent, which is AB. The next one, ecstasy, elation. Yes, right, Yashasva, absolutely right. So the next one is ecstasy, elation, greed, or despair. Now, ecstasy is the height of happiness. You couldn't be happier than this state. So that's ecstasy, extreme happiness. And then you have, all right, yes, Natasha, that's absolutely right. Good answer choice. Now the next one, ecstasy, like I said, is extreme happiness. A person couldn't be happier than this state. Then there is elation. Elation is, of course, again, you're very happy, but there is a difference in the degree. Ecstasy is a degree more intense than elation. Then you have greed. And then there is despair, which is a lot of pain and sorrow and grief. So, what do you think will work best? Will it be AB, ecstasy and elation? Would it be CD, greed and despair? Would it be AD, which is ecstasy and despair? Or would it be BC, elation and greed? What do you think is the answer? Well, I'd say it would be AD. No, Yashasva. Yes, Natasha, I agree with your answer. See, Yashasva, we need something that's opposite to the other word. Uh, Ecstasy is happiness, despair is unhappiness, the state of being in a sorrow. So, has to be ecstasy and despair. So, dukh, sukh, and dukh. Extreme sukh and extreme dukh. Okay? Yes, yes, Yashasvin. Now I agree. And I guess we've come to the last segment. This is the last question, which is congregation. Now, congregation is a group of worshippers, simply a group of worshippers, congregation. Deprivation is a lack of something. Let's say there is a deprivation of water, there is deprivation of money, there's deprivation of, say, comfort. So, whatever it is, there is a lack of something. कमी है किसी चीज की. And then you have compensation. So, there was something missing and somebody filled it, someone compensated it. That's what compensation is. And then there is summary, which means a précis or a synopsis or a gist. So, which two words you think are the stark opposite of each other in the given four sentence words? Let's see, Natasha. You say it's C, which is B and C. Yes, I completely agree with you. See, given choices, the first one is congregation, which doesn't go with any other word. Then there is summary, which doesn't really go with any other word. It's not even clues. Now we are left with deprivation, which means lack of something, and compensation means fulfilling something. So essentially, it has to be B and C. Now, children, with this, I come to the end of the session. Yes, good, yeah, good answer choice, Yasha. So that's the right answer. That is C. Now, with this, I come to the end of the session. I hope you were able to gain something from the session. We'll be back with more such sessions where we'll help you revise and get a good score in any entrance, be it DU JAT or IPM or NPAT or whatever entrance you're planning to take, because essentially the kind of topics that we have are same. And word usage, of course, is a very important topic. Now, if you like the session, please like and subscribe our channel and do leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll take your leave now. Take care. Bye bye.